And good evening and welcome to another edition of the 941 Sports Zone. I should say good day, whenever you're watching, whether you're watching live at 8 o'clock on Monday when we do this every week, or if you're watching the podcast, either on Facebook, YouTube, or anywhere else you consume your podcasts. I'm Rich Spitz. John Massoni's with me.
Hi,
We
everybody.
are rolling already 3 weeks. The high school football season is 30% complete, John. It's nuts.
I know it's funny because and we always talk about it. It's September 8th, and it'll be the 12th, I guess, on Friday. But it's already like you're deep into the season, and it's not even fall yet. So yeah, it comes quick, it comes fast, and you better be ready to go when football season starts because it just zooms by you sometimes.
All right, let's go over the results from last week as we usually do at the start of the podcast. Venice got their first win. It wasn't easy. I know you were on the call. 27-12 over Bishop Verot, way different than last year's 71-56 shootout. I think it was 7-3 at the half, wasn't it, John?
It was 7-3, and it was just the exact opposite of what we saw last year, where offenses were going back and forth, and defenses prevailed this year. Verot's got a good quarterback, young guy, sophomore. They have a very sort of diverse offense. They spread it out. They're on a lot of motion stuff, so they're very balanced. They have a good system. Just I think they're under a tiny bit of maybe a talent depletion at this point right now, I guess. But they're good, and they'll do something in the playoffs. I can promise you that.
All right. Another game of interest. Port Charlotte, another running clock, 49-13 over Lehigh. They moved to 3-0. And that's basically the game of the week next week. Port Charlotte at Venice should be a dandy.
Very good game. We've been sincerely and very righteously promoting what Port Charlotte's doing down there in Charlotte County, and so it's going to be a heck of a game. Last year was a great game, well played on both sides. Came down to the fourth quarter, so I would expect nothing less this year. Port Charlotte started off on a roll. A lot of points being scored. Played Riverview in a kickoff classic. They've been doing real well. And Venice sputtered a bit, and 2 games under their belt, they're 1-1. So it'll be interesting to see where they are at this time, and see if this is the time that Port Charlotte can break through.
Speaking of Riverview, very nice win against Palmetto, 38-35, a shootout. Mark Christiani doing the job there at Riverview. They seem to be a little better than we thought they were.
Never want to sort of, be surprised that Riverview is off to a good start because there's always talent at Riverview. They've always got, they have a pedigree. They're a good program. So, but it's just like I say, when you not sure, new first year coach, very well prepared guy. Mark's always been very well prepared. I thought Palmetto might sneak up on, or not even sneak, but I thought Palmetto could get a win there. But a nice win for Riverview. That kind of keeps them on their momentum.
And their next opponent, Parish Community, what a huge district game that's going to be. Parish Community edged Palm Harbor 15-14 to remain unbeaten. This is first of all, it's an unbelievable district, and this could be the district championship this early.
Yes, and it is a very good district. So I mean, the fact of the matter is that Parish Community's been up there doing their thing and then playing a lot of good defense. And obviously a real looks like a real player going into the playoffs. But this is the game that you could say that maybe this is where we decide the district championship early in the year.
And the game is at Palmetto coming up on Friday night. The surprise of the weekend to me, Braden River.
Yes.
Moves to 2-1 with a 10-7 win over Lakewood Ranch for a low-scoring game. I have it from authority, from people that were at the game, that Lakewood Ranch, the coach closed the door of the locker room for 10 to 15 minutes. Not exactly thrilled with the outcome. I think Ranch thought they were going to win that game easily, and Braden River gets the job done to move to 2-1.
Well, again, a natural rivalry. You're just down the street from each other. So you never quite know what's going to happen in some of those games. Even in high school, you've seen the most talented team play in another team, and it's a rivalry. You never know what's going to come of it. So, a little surprised. I thought Lakewood Ranch was sort of on a little bit of a momentum push there as well. but congratulations to Braden River. That was a nice win for them.
Both teams now 2-1. Lemon Bay got in the winning column. They boat raced Hardy 42-6. That was a running clock at halftime. Good job by Coach Mensing in the game to get in the win column, and their reward for this is a trip to Immokalee, not to go to the casino, but to play the Indians, who, speaking of championship pedigree, John, they do have it.
And you can see if there's been some players to come through Immokalee that have made it to college, the college ranks and in the pro ranks as well. But again, Immokalee, Clewiston, all those schools down there, they play that mud ball that they play down there. You know what I mean? They're out there, and then you go a little bit further east, and you get into the Glades teams, Glades Day, Glades Central, those kind of schools. So yeah, there's some good football played down there right in the Everglades, and Immokalee is one of them. So good luck to Lemon Bay going down there. I know it's a tough spot to be in.
Cardinal Mooney back in the win column, 39-3 over Rockledge. They're going to be a machine, at least local games, in my opinion.
Yes, and I again, they've reached the point. They got that state title 2 years ago, right? And sometimes when that door opens, you start to get to a different level and with your execution and how you play the game. And when you say playing local, yeah, they're reaching out to play schools from Colorado and other different places. So yeah, they're definitely putting themselves in that echelon of a very high level football. And Mooney should be a team that rolls through some of the local teams.
Booker, more like what we expected of Booker this year, 43-21 over Calvary Christian. They moved to 2-1 on the season, second straight win for the Tornadoes.
And like I said, with a new coach, with Coach Woods being there, it's you got to figure there's got to be a little bit of growing pains and figuring some things out, and so with that, I think they can do that and still manage to win probably 8 to 9 games this year. And so we should see along with Cardinal Mooney, you should see Booker probably advancing into the playoffs and doing some damage in the playoffs.
Sarasota got their second win of the season, 47-20 over Northport. The Bobcats winless at 0-3, and Sarasota with a nice win, and they're putting a lot of points up on the board.
That's what I was going to say. I was just going to say that about the points. I think that that's always a scary proposition when you have a team that's can keep you on your heels a bit, because they can score points, and sometimes that's the pressure you put on the other team, and it can bode well. So look out for Sarasota. I'd love to see them about week 6 or 7, see what they're doing, because I think they might be another team that could be a playoff contender and a playoff winner as things go forward.
The only team to beat them was Bayshore in overtime in the first week. Bayshore with a very nice win over Pinellas Park squad that's usually a playoff team in Pinellas County.
Venice played them about 7 or 8 years ago in the playoffs, and yes,
I remember the game well.
Playoff team, always a very controlled line of scrimmage type of teams that back in those days. But yeah, no, a really good win right there. Really, really. I mean, that's one of those ones you don't take for granted that Pinellas Park's not going to be putting out a good product. They will.
Lowndes 42, Manatee 7. Manatee, took care of business against Southeast. They've kind of stepped out a little bit in their other games and hasn't gone so well. No, but I will tell you this: you're not. There's no way moving forward if they get their stuff straightened out, that if they make the playoffs, that they're not going to be super ready to play, because Lowndes has been a very powerful team in Georgia for years, and a couple other games that they played, the team from California that they played, those are all big tests for them, and for them to kind of get through that part of their schedule. I mean, again, obviously, that I cover Venice. We look at our schedule the same way and say, we could be 4-1 or 1-4, but when we get through that, we'll be better for it, because not that there's any good losses. No coach ever wants to say there's a good loss, but that experience is vital to how you move forward in the playoffs. Here's another score that kind of caught my eye. Out of door, 45 St. Stephen's nothing. I'm shocked at the spread in that game. Out of door playing very well.
Yes, and there again, I love that the ODA and Sarasota Christian, St. Stephen's. People sort of take it for granted that they don't have talent, that there's a bunch of little guys running around playing football. That is not the case. ODA has got some players, and ODA is not one to be to underestimate. They are a top-notch program. Sarasota Christian's climbing the ladder. We know St. Stephen's got a couple guys in the NFL, and so that. So all those schools, it's a good brand of football that's being played, and I think that ODA it might be the one right now who's setting the bar at this point.
Sarasota Christian stepped out and played a very good team from down south, Southwest Florida Christian. Yep. Hung for a while, but 35-20 was the final. Southwest Florida Christian gets the win, and I'm sure this is a game that Sarasota Christian is going to use as kind of a little bit of a springboard, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're playing a good team, and you're in your second year with 11-man football, and so you're going to keep growing from these types of games, and your competition locally is fantastic as well. So you don't have to go too far to get tested in that case. But Coach Span has got a program he's putting together. I think that even though they maybe lose one, I think they're happy to see where they're at with their progress so far.
Canterbury shut out Babcock 41-0. The Babcock team struggling a little bit. Obviously, a second-year program.
Not easy
trying to get things together, but they've got tremendous facilities. They're certainly going to be able to, maybe lure a player or two over there with their. They've got top flight facilities over there at Babcock.
Well, I was out there a couple of years ago when everything was sort of in the fledgling stage of the build out there, and you just could see everything was going to be top notch. So so they'll be just fine in a few short years, I'm sure.
Let's look at all the scores from this past week. Again, the two games of the week this week. Port Charlotte at Venice and Parish at Palmetto. Parish and Palmetto, probably a little bigger only in the sense that it is a district game. And like we discussed a little earlier, I think Palmetto, especially losing this week, I think they're going to be a little meat on the bone. Practice is going to be really tough this week, and Parish community better be ready.
And it's at Palmetto.
Yes.
And Palmetto has a similar feel to it, the home field, as Port Charlotte's home field. It's a little bit tucked in the back, a little bit, it's got that, it's kind of got like the Welcome to the Thunderdome kind of feel to it when you walk in there. So then they get a good crowd as well. We played a few playoff games up there and then regular season games as well. And there's always been a really cool place to play, such as Port Charlotte. And then of course, Venice and Port Charlotte, obviously, bragging rights is probably what you're going to come out of that, whatever that may be. But for Venice, it's a ship rider kind of situation. Now we're playing a local team. Let's ride in the ship. Let's see what we can do with that. And then for Port Charlotte, it could be the game that you win that makes you believe that you can do a lot more than you've been doing. So moving forward in the playoffs. So some definite juice on that game for Venice and for Port Charlotte. It should be a very exciting night. And I will tell you that we're anticipating a huge crowd.
Yeah, they're going to travel up from Port Charlotte. Now, they remember the game last year. Logan Flaherty has been nothing short of sensational. The Pirates are scoring points, I believe, 65, 63, and 49 this week. They have been putting points on the board. And I saw the Venice defense, watched the game last week on YouTube. You did a great job with the call of the game. I'm very happy to see the Venice defense, which has been lagging behind the last couple of years. Looks like it's a little bit ahead of the offense this year.
And a lot to do with some experienced guys in key positions that are leaders by example kind of guys. They're the guy who making the big play, the tackle, the sack, the interception, that kind of thing. So got some guys doing that, and you sprinkle in some talent around those type of players, and the defense has really been off to a fast start. And I'll tell you the truth, sometimes you say, oh yeah, your middle linebacker or your linebackers, they're the guys that make most of the tackles. Lately for Venice, it's been the D line has been making some tackles because they're not getting that far with the running game and so on. Even the fact that with Tampa Bay Tech with the loss in that game, the defense did play pretty well. They held them to 4 field goals, and it wasn't the score were 29 points. It indicated that they beat us pretty good, but the defense played better than the score showed.
Yeah, I saw a score that kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit this week up in the Tampa area. Tampa Bay Tech soundly defeated by Armwood. Armwood must be back to what they used to be in the late 90s and early 2000s. They were a machine.
Armwood is tough to measure because we've played them and lost to them in the playoffs for a couple of years, a couple of weird bounces, but didn't go our way against them. And then, but then you go and play them the next year, and they're bigger and faster than they were their last time. And then they sort of morph into whatever they need to be. They're really good at it. You know what I mean? And there's a talent pool in that area. So they have a talent pool that they've always got players sort of replenishing. And we've seen a lot of kids from Armwood play at UF and FSU and you name it. There's some names that have come out of that program. And again, the Tampa Bay Tech talented team, but Armwood's a team so if Tech try to push Armwood around, if that's what happened, I don't know that.
No good.
That's not going to happen. That was that was a mistake. So you're not going to beat Armwood at their game. That's for sure.
Nice time to transition into college football. You mentioned UF. You took the trek up to Gainesville last week, so you got to see everything firsthand. And listen, we talked kind of a little bit before this. USF did come up with the upset. Florida's got a lot of things to clean up, 11 penalties. 2 of them brought touchdowns back. One of them was very ticky-tack. But if the tight end doesn't push, just raise his hands, he doesn't draw any attention to himself, and that's probably a touchdown. Nonetheless, that's a game that Florida should have won. There was some questionable play calling at the end of the game, at least in my opinion. USF had 1 timeout left. It was a 3rd and medium, and Langway's throwing a 30-yard pass down the left sidelines, and then just a complete breakdown defensively on that final drive, John.
Mentally,
kind of, total mental things. The spitting. We had a spitting incident 2 days earlier. Right. What in the world was that kid thinking? Really?
Yeah, right. Were you thinking about it or what? Who knows? But to watch Florida football live in the Billy Napier era is very difficult to watch because it's like there is no sort of rhythm, momentum. The crowd can't get up and keep that pace that you want to have a good home field advantage. There's always sort of, we lost the game, but like you said, there was a penalty and somebody spit in somebody's face and someone said this and someone did that. And that didn't go quite right. And you sort of see the same theme over and over again, that they lose a game that they obviously were more than capable of winning. And by the way, USF is a good football team, but they didn't play that great.
No,
they did not play that great. Brown, the quarterback, didn't run all over us. They didn't run for a bunch of yards. The game statistically was relatively even, but there was really nothing that you could say that, wow, USF really put some colossal effort out there. The touchdown that they got early on or in the second half was just 2 guys who were confused in coverage. Yeah, they were standing right there, let them jump and catch it, and they didn't even bother to tackle him. So there was a lot of things like that were sort of happening, and it just had the same feel to a lot of other games. And I wish I could tell you one of them that was similar to it, but there's been a lot of things. And you sit there, you're not mad. You're just sort of like a little uncomfortable, a little confused. Are they going to do something to change this? They're going to keep doing the same thing, and they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And there's no success to it. It's crazy to see a game where USF's defensive plan is to put 10 guys in the box because they know you can't throw over the top of them. And you're probably going to run the ball 80% of the time. It's sad that a great run only yields 4 yards because you have to break 3 tackles to get to the line of scrimmage, and then you get 4. You get 4 because you stretch yourself out over the line of scrimmage. It's just hard to kind of watch. I will say this though, the things that happen on the field in regards to the spitting incident, regards to the breakdowns in crucial situations, are a byproduct of what I feel to be the idea that you have a head coach who is the CEO of the team. He's the recruiter. He's the offensive coordinator. He's everything. He's one guy with 150 minions running around doing nothing with clipboards in their hands, and it didn't make any sense. And the only time I got up and yelled and was angry fan was when after the snap over the head on the punter for the safety, which is that's not something to get mad at. It's a physical mistake. It's going to happen. You might see it once every 5 years. It happened in that situation, but they lined up for the free kick. And what Florida does when they line up for a kickoff, they don't line them all 10 across the line of scrimmage. They line up in two single file rows of 5, and the kicker's in the middle, and he does something with his arms, and they do that, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a timeout. There was a commercial timeout. Everything else, the 4 or 5 minutes from that play to and they came out and they broke the huddle, and there was 2 lines of 5 and no kicker. And not no kicker because there was no kicker, and nobody. It took everybody on. I don't know what. It took at least a good 10 count before anybody realized there was no kicker. The players were like waving and whatever else because nobody's paying attention. They got their backs to the field and whatever else, and the kicker was on the entire other end of the field, and he had to come running out there, got out there, almost got a delay of game penalty, and kicked off. The idea that we still 4 years into Napier's tenure that we can't get. You have 2 number 5s on the field. You had 22 guys in the field on a game-winning field goal that you got bailed out by a timeout or whatever it was. Those are the unexcusable things, because if you have all these guys, and I said minions, okay, you have all these guys right there, then every starter should have his own coach. Mm-hmm. And what are you doing if you're over there kicking balls into a net? And it was just a turnover on you're not into the game. That's the problem. I can't. I made a comment last week about I don't like Shane Beamer's enthusiasm is a little too over the top. Right. But Billy Napier is almost like he's the game is his nap time. Like he's catching up on some shut eye because he got so many other things that's going on with him. And to have that happen again, and again, didn't happen right on TV or whatever. I don't know if they even say anything on TV about it, but it just indicates as to where they are in some situations. And when you don't know that you're out there, you do play sloppy, you do play lazy, you are looking for somebody else to make a play. That's the kind of stuff that happens, and unfortunately, that's going to be the way it's going to be. And you say, well, what does that mean for Florida against LSU? It probably means they play one hell of a game because they have now woken up. It's not at home. You're not taking it for granted. They call last week, people know what a trap game is, right? Yes. That was a trap game for Florida, but it wasn't a trap game for where they didn't play like a trap game. They didn't underestimate USF. They just didn't show up to play no matter who it was. They were not into it. There was no enthusiasm, and the crowd got it. There was only one slight part of the game where the crowd got into it, and it just proved out that there was just no juice coming out of Florida, and it's unfortunate that happens. And now he's got 4 losable games in a row, and so you look at that and say 1-5 is. After losing to USF is not good. No, the fan base. It's not going to be.
All right, it's not going to be 1-5. I'm going to talk you off the ledge, John. It's not going to be 1-5. No, I think they do no worse than split. I think they might even win 3 out of 4. I really do. I think this was maybe the wake-up call that everybody needed, including the coaching staff. Another major thing that happened on that last drive, 4th down, you got 12 guys on the field. Call a timeout. You don't need to. You're not going to get the ball back anyway. Call timeout and make it right instead of having a fire drill. You're right. The discipline is unreal. The shoddy tackling was another thing, especially late in the game. It almost looked like UF wore out a little bit, which really, really surprised me. That last drive, there were several broken tackles.
You talked about the broken tackles. You talk about being worn out. DJ Lagway looking like he wasn't ready to play the football game physically or mentally in that situation, making sort of sloppy throws and weird decisions on certain things. Again, that's up to somebody to light a spark. That's up to somebody to motivate. The team. That's the problem. There's no motivating against LSU. They're gonna, they're gonna be ready to go after a loss. I firmly believe that they'll play a great game against LSU.
So do I. I think they got a real shot to win. LSU's nothing. You look at the Clemson game, kind of is not as good as it looked. Clemson was 16-0 down to Troy late in the second quarter. They did end up coming back and winning that game, but they were a 30-point favorite. And LSU basically walked through their game as well. So I really don't know how good LSU is. I know there's a number 3 by their name, John, but I don't think they're the third best team in the country.
No, I thought that the Clemson LSU game was two teams that were overrated but well matched up with each other. They were there. They played similar styles of how to play. I would say, and you see how they came out of that game. They showed their true colors. They're not quite ready. They're not quite that team. And Clemson, fortunately, is in the ACC, so they're going to have a heck of a run at doing it, because there's really nobody other than Florida State right now who's impressive in the ACC. And listen, 2-10 is not that far away. While you think Castellanos is a good player, and there's still a lot of room to improve for Florida State. So Clemson should be okay there, but LSU, it's in Baton Rouge, 7:45 kickoff. They'll be all lubricated in the stands and ready to go. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of enthusiasm for that one, but we'll see what happens. But again, you can go out and let's say you do beat LSU, you got to go down to Miami the next week, and you go back to the same thing, because it seems other than that stretch at the end of the year last year, they always seem to follow up a good game with another one of those sort of sleepwalking games. So we'll see how they manage through that as well. So we'll see.
Well, I listen. I think if I remember correctly, the game 2 years ago, actually Florida led in the fourth quarter, and that was a 6-6 Florida team, and right. LSU was supposed to be the goods, and that game went to overtime, and Florida really, honestly, should have won that game. So I am fully expecting, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is on that game. I really think the Gators. I can't believe the spread's 8, and I think they've got a legit shot to win that game.
And Brian Kelly, he was asked about Billy Napier in a press conference I watched this afternoon, and Brian Kelly said, "Don't forget they beat us last year. Right. Don't talk about last week. They beat us last year, and they kind of beat them pretty soundly too, for Florida at least. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Again, Florida, hopefully that was the wake-up call for Florida. You hate to see that happen, especially with the schedule coming up. But yeah, we'll see. And I'm hoping for an entertaining game. I mean, I wish I could tell you the game on Saturday was entertaining. It was far from it.
Yeah,
it was not an it was the pregame was way more entertaining than the game itself. Trust me.
All right, Miami did. They had their little sister of the poor game against Bethune, 45-3. Yep. So now Miami's got quite a little stretch coming up for them. The USF game, I'm sure Miami, USF has their attention. That game is, I think the line moved from 15 to 17.5 earlier today, which is very similar to the line that was, in Gainesville. And the game is in the witness protection program. It's at 4:30 on the CW. Good luck finding it. If I know a lot of cable systems and satellite systems don't even have the CW. Right.
So and again, that's where it's almost like Live Golf versus the PGA. They're both on the CW. It's the ACC and it's the SEC and it's PGA and it's still good football, but it's not really in the forefront of what everybody's watching, because you have to go look for it. It's hard. Yeah. It's definitely hard.
Well, hopefully we helped you out, and you have several days to figure out where it is.
Yeah, no doubt.
Up on Saturday.
No doubt.
Florida State, no problems with Texas A&M. Oh, wait a minute. East Texas A&M, 77-3.
And you know
I
what?
don't know what you can glean from that other than, they
So
scored 11 touchdowns. Go ahead.
You look at the game like that for Florida State, and you did what you had to do.
Yes.
Okay. You went out there and didn't try to play nice. You went out there and whipped some butt, and that's what you do. And that keeps it keeps the momentum. It keeps the energy high. You got third stringers scoring touchdowns. All that kind of stuff lends itself to that momentum, as opposed to saying, you know what? Oh, we're up 21. Let's go ahead and put everybody in there. We have a nice 35-3 win. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you gotta feel good about yourself. Sometimes it is good to beat up on the JV. You know what I mean? And just, hey, you're running your stuff. It looks good because, in practice, you're playing the ones versus the ones a lot of time. You know what I mean? And you're playing against good players. So for the other team to go out there and get that little push of confidence, I think that means something for a team coming off a really bad year last year.
Yeah, and they get Kent State this week, another dreadful team, bottom of the
right
map. Another game to get well. October 4th is what they've got scheduled. They've got a trip to Miami. Boy, things get really dicey for Miami. They've got USF, Florida, and Miami coming up in the next several weeks. So, Florida State. Sorry.
Florida State.
Yeah.
It can really be one of those ones where, like, one beats the other one. If somebody wins one, there could be a lot of different stuff. The one team, though, is if USF can knock off Miami, they're done. They've played everybody except UCF at this point. You know what I'm saying? So they might be the state can have a state championship flag on their new stadium someday.
They might be the group of 5 representative in the playoff if they do that. Even if they lose a close game, they're right at the top.
They got a hell of an argument. There's no doubt about that.
UCF did what they needed to do after a very close first game where their quarterback got injured. 68-7 over North Carolina A&T. They got well again, and they've got the hoodie coming to town on the 20th. So they've got a week off, and then North Carolina comes to town. North Carolina got their first win over Charlotte, and all everybody wanted to talk about is the Patriots are not allowed here, and we're not allowed up there. Whatever. I mean, get over it for crying. Yeah. I'm so tired. And I live up here in the Boston area. So right. It's ad nauseum up here. It just makes you want to puke.
Right. I know it's well, I mean, it's fandom, man. What do you expect? People are going to always do that kind of stuff. You can't stop them.
Oklahoma, there were a couple of games that were decent. Oklahoma did get the best of Michigan, 24-13. I think it's a simple case of, Mateer was, had more reps. He's the transfer. He's going to be everything for Oklahoma this year. And then Michigan, Bryce Underwood. I guess he's the future, but I'm not sure of the future. I can't believe they're still ranked, to be quite honest with you.
I thought that last year's Michigan team was going to be a real sour note after what happened, but the win against Ohio State last year sort of perked them up a little bit in the eyes of the nation. I think what we're going to see this year from Michigan is what we're going to see from Michigan for a couple more years. For as good as Underwood may be, I don't know if there's Harbaugh is a tough act to follow for a lot of reasons. His approach to the media, his approach to the game, to the kids is all very unique to him and as well. But you know what? His approach to how he built his team is also very unique, and how he went about coaching some of it. He's not afraid to bend a rule. He's not afraid to do any of that stuff. And sometimes, like, that guy leaves and you're left with a little bit of a mess to clean up. The people at Michigan, they like to pat themselves in the back for how wonderful and how altruistic they are and they're the Ivy League type school and all this other stuff. Michigan's there. They do it the right way. And Harbaugh didn't do it the right way. He did it the Harbaugh way, whatever that may be. And so
they got their natty. They don't care.
Right. Well, that's right. They'll make excuses about it, whatever it may be. But the idea is that, you got a head coach that's not going to be the head coach on Saturdays for 2 weeks now. And by the way, let's say the irony of that is that Biff Poggi, a name that you may know, Biff Poggi was the sort of the matriarch or patriarch, I should say, of the St. Francis Academy football team in Maryland that came to Venice.
Really?
Yeah, he was the financier to get that all started. And so Biff did his thing, and Biff liked to wear his T-shirts that with the sleeves cut off, and he had a whole way of doing it. He flew in on a helicopter to Venice High School. He showed up late for that game like a celebrity, and Biff parlayed that into the head coaching job at Charlotte that you mentioned that Bill Belichick just beat up on. And average sort of, I would say an average career there, not very good. He got fired after 3 years and had a relationship with the University of Michigan. He ended up being an assistant coach there. He will be the head coach the next 2 weeks for Michigan on the sidelines. So I know a few friends of mine are Biff Poggi fans. So if you want to see Biff coach at the big time level for the University of Michigan, he's there and he'll be on the sidelines. But that's what I'm saying. There's lingering effects from what Harbaugh did. It's there. It's in effect. It's around it, and so people tend that's hard to overcome sometimes, or hard to just shuffle away. We'll see how the season goes for them.
A couple other games I want to mention from a really pedestrian week of college football. There were two games that were of note, and both involved Big 12 teams. SMU blew a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter to Baylor, who ended up winning in overtime. Baylor was the favorite to win the conference, but Auburn beat them pretty good the week before at Baylor. Yes. So that gives that conference several teams with one loss. Iowa State, though, is the unblemished. They took care of Iowa late, 16-13. So they're 3-0. Rocco Becht, Anthony's kid, playing very well, and that team's got a legitimate shot to get back to. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, to get back to the Big 12 championship game. They were there last year. Yeah. A lot of people don't remember because Arizona State boat raced them. And by the way, Arizona State took it on the chin from Mississippi State at Mississippi State. They played a horrible first half, got things together, got a lead, but Mississippi State scored in the last minute or so to win that game. And so another black eye for the Big 12, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Mississippi State's always they're competitive. It's not easy to play in Starkville. They at least didn't have to play in Starkville at noon or 11 o'clock in the morning like you do when you're Florida or somebody else in the SEC playing down there. But I think Iowa State has been a very well coached team, putting guys out there. Don't forget, that's Brock Purdy's university. That's Breece Hall's university. I could probably name up 5 more if I thought about it, but they've got talent. They're pretty well coached. They always just seem to manage to bump their head against somebody they shouldn't, like Kansas or something like that. They're like, well, how'd you lose to Kansas when you boat raced somebody else, that kind of thing. So we'll see how that goes. I think the Big 12 was representative, obviously Arizona State from last year. I think if Iowa State's there, they're going to be tested if they get there. I think they'll be okay. One thing I will say too, Oregon, another Big 12 team, I said a Big 10 team, but beat Oklahoma State, another Big 12 team, by 7 points or something like that.
So I believe it was 69-3. I mean, just Mike Gundy ran his mouth during the week, and Dan Lanning. Yeah. There's a guy you don't want to run your mouth against. He will run it up. Yeah,
he's got a lot of bravado, and it's one of those things about and he's how do I put it? He reminds me of let me see if I can get this the right one. He reminds me of Kyle Busch in NASCAR. Okay, he kind of rubs you the wrong way a little bit. Yep. But if even though he's got the fastest car out there, he still might run you into the wall because you didn't move fast enough, or he's going to do some things. So Dan Lanning he's got a fast car right now. There's no doubt about it. He's got a great environment up there in Oregon, and man, I mean that's the team you forget. when everybody's like,
Yes.
"Oh, Ohio State and Penn State are going to be," don't forget
Yes.
Oregon. Guys. They're Big Ten. Do not forget them. If you think that it's going to be, a showdown between Penn State and Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, you're sadly mistaken. Oregon's going to throw a little fly in that ointment.
They got that Nike money flowing in there, the Phil Knight money, and
it's like
endless.
having a rich uncle. Hey, you know what? I got in trouble last night. I made it a little help with fixing somebody's car, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. You have fun." Yeah, we did. All right, great. That kind of thing. So it's not a bad deal. And of course, like, nowadays it's like, now there's nothing even to hide, whatever Nike can provide. Oregon is there's nobody can ever, make a suggestion that it was the wrong thing to do. It's just out there now. So
yeah, they've got uniforms coming out of their rear ends, the different uniform every week, 16 games, 16 different uniforms. It's
funny you say that because the one uniform that I always want to see them in is the original, the old yes. Oregon uniform.
I think everybody does.
It's like, that looks cool. It's a cool uniform. I mean,
right.
The colors that come out now, I'm like, that black with silver and yellow, and like, what is that? Like, not even like Oregon yellow, like it's like canary yellow. It's like, it's really funky stuff. So
one other game I want to mention, and it's up against the LSU Florida game on Saturday night, and it's Texas A&M and Notre Dame. And suddenly with the loss to Miami, this is a big game for Notre Dame. Yeah. If they go and get a second loss here, John, the back end of their schedule is soft as tissue paper. This is almost a must win for them.
Now I'll ask you a question. These two teams, A&M and Notre Dame, it always seems like that there's in the midst, in the first 4 or 5 games of the year, that there's a crucial game for both of these teams. They always seem like A&M's got LSU. If they got to win this one, if they don't, they got all this and that. And Notre Dame's like, hey, Notre Dame, if this is me, Texas A&M, they got an easy schedule, but they may not make the playoffs or whatever it may be, that kind of stuff. It always seems like early in the year, these two teams have some sort of crucial matchup that's going to that has an effect on them, and they're not very good at usually getting over these humps. At least the last couple of years. Now Notre Dame last year they had a very good push at the end of the year, but it always seems like Notre Dame, like, oh, you look like they lost to whatchamacallit, Northern Illinois last year, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, that's their season. They so screwed up. A&M always manages to lose a game, like they lose to Kentucky or they lose to somebody that they at home. Always a weird deal, no matter who the coach is or whatever. So interested to see who comes out of this one and keeps momentum about this. I'd like to say that Notre Dame would be the team to do it, but I'm just not quite sure of what they've got going there right now. I know Miami could have let them back in at the end of that game. I know they play a good style of defense, but A&M's got some players. There's no doubt about that. We'll see how they roll out. They got some athletes that you're going to chase around.
Yeah, well, I thought Carr played very well in the second half of the Miami game, after having some nerves, and I think he'll play a lot better Saturday night at Notre Dame. I think that's another big thing. The other thing, last year Notre Dame had Army and Navy both ranked, and they beat them. That really helped them. They don't get that this year. No. Army already lost to Tarleton State, and Navy's not nearly as good as they've been.
But look what they did last week. They and
they go to Kansas State and win, which
right?
Which kind of dirties up Iowa State's win over in Ireland.
Right. There's no doubt about that.
All right. That's college football. Let's turn our attention to week 1 of the NFL, and there were some unbelievable games Sunday. All weekend started with Carter,
Dallas and Philly.
Dallas and Philly, and Carter. And this is the thing that kills me, John. His player has a torn ACL, and they're trying to take care of him, and he's messing around with Dak Prescott. I mean, it's just he's just a moron. There's no other way to put it.
And you see it off the field and on the field. Okay, he's the most penalized guy. All this different stuff.
The racing.
And it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you almost have to say, like, there's a flaw somewhere. Okay, whatever that may be.
There's a reason he dropped the ninth, John. There's a
Right.
reason.
Oh,
He
yeah,
was
there's no doubt about it.
top 3 talent.
Yep. And so you look at what he's doing, and what's going to happen is it's game one. He gets thrown out of the game. Everybody can sort of forget about it. It's when he does something, and he will, okay, either on or off the field, that's going to affect the success of the Eagles. It's going to be you're out for the playoff game, or something's going to happen along those lines, or you're going to get a roughing the passer penalty on a 4th down play late in the year. That's going to, and you're going to lose home field advantage. He's just that guy who doesn't understand the magnitude of his actions, and unfortunately, he doesn't seem to be getting held accountable for it either at Philly or at Georgia. So, I mean, what happens is you have a wild card that you don't know what you're going to get, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, my daughter's in the chat. Most terrible display of sportsmanship. Amen. I mean, just
yeah,
and that could have been the game. I mean, that him being out of that game kept Dallas in that game, in my opinion.
No, sure it did. Because that's a disruptor. There's a guy that's he's a run stopper. He's a guy pushing up the middle on pass play. It's hard to overcome that. Now, if you had a week to prepare and you know he wasn't going to play, maybe not as much. But you lost him in the moment. Right. Game's about to start, and you're like, he's what? He did who? What? Where? It's never. Unfortunately, you don't see an end to this kind of behavior. There's been a lot of guys that you saw, the Antonio Brown kind of players, and even back in the Ocho Cinco days, and Terrell Owens, and these guys. They're just all this drama that follows them, and they're talented as can be. But it's always it puts a some of them don't survive it. You know, they end up having sort of dreadfully bad ends to their careers. And some guys can sort of manage through it enough because they can put stack numbers or do some stuff. But it's just unfortunate that he's in that position. You can be aggressive. You can be charismatic, you want to call it that, or whatever you want to be. You can be all that stuff. But you just can't be foolish. And that's the part that he's just foolish.
No question. Friday night game in Brazil. Thank goodness this is going to end because the season's going to start too late. They can't play these games for a few years anymore on Friday night. At least the field was in decent shape. The thing I took out of this game, Kansas City did not look good. I know it ended up being a 1-score game, but I'm definitely seeing chinks in the armor there, and good on the Chargers. Justin Herbert looks like, I know it's only one game, I don't want to make a declaration, but he certainly took a step forward.
It seems to be very popular right now to sort of wanting to back away from Kansas City as a favorite to go to the Super Bowl for a number of reasons. Their division is very good, so there's no way they're coming out of that with 6 wins. Like, obviously, they can't now because they lost one already, but that's not going to happen. Buffalo's good again. Baltimore's good again. I think Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are both going to be very good. Indianapolis with Danny Dimes, maybe they're going to be better. So there's a lot more hurdles to overcome, and I don't think they're going to get a home field advantage, which has been their path to success. We know that for sure. So I think you're right. I think Kansas City is a sort of people are coming off the for sure Kansas City run the Super Bowl. One thing about Friday night also, I didn't get to see most of the game, but what I did see of it, be a little bit of the game and a little bit, it looked like I was watching a sort of a weird carnival act or something that was the graphics were weird. Cam Newton was dressed like I don't know what. He looked like
the way he usually dresses now.
I know, but it's like a character out of the Alice in Wonderland or something. I have no idea. I didn't recognize Kay Adams because she got Botox. I was a little surprised about that. I'm like, that's Kay Adams. It was just a weird thing altogether. People couldn't figure out YouTube. I hear all kinds of stuff like YouTube. How do I figure this out? So it was just a weird. I would say if you're sitting down up in New York at the NFL headquarters and you're discussing what happened on Friday night, somebody should stand up and tell Roger Goodell, "Don't do it again. That's stupid." They lost games to they lost divisional games to playing in Brazil, and Did Brazil even give a crap? I don't even know. Who knows? Maybe it was an anomaly or something unique to go see, but I can't imagine they picked up a bunch of fans in Brazil from that game.
Well, he wants to grow the brand. That's what he's doing. So
grow it someplace where it's not. It's I don't know if South America is the place to grow it. You know what I'm saying? I think
they grow other stuff down there,
right? And they're soccer is so far ahead, and it is in the worldwide as well. But I can't foresee that there's going to be any type of huge fan base in Brazil at all. I can see Europe for sure. You can see that as well. But I don't see it in South America or the Asian countries or anything like that. I just don't see it.
Well, the Sunday games, the Buccaneers got off to they got a win, 23-20 in Atlanta, a team that they did not beat last year in 2 tries, and they desperately tried to give this game away. The positive I take from this game, they didn't nearly play as well as they could, and they still found a way to win.
I'm sitting there waiting to say what I was going to say, but I'm like, they look like crap compared to what how everybody's been pumping them up. They look like they were pulling stuff out of their what to win that game, and they looked. I don't want to say underprepared. They looked overconfident. They looked like they thought they had it won before they got there. And I just watching that game, I'm like, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. I'm not saying that that all teams don't sort of over celebrate a shoestring tackle or a first down or whatever things that are just sort of pedestrian type things you get in a football game. But it seems to me like the Bucs wanted to be very proud of everything that they were doing when they did it. A little bit too much of that. And I'm not sure if I don't think it's coming from Todd Bowles, but I've always had a problem with Todd Bowles as an authority figure, as an NFL coach. I think he can draw up defenses. I think that he's a cerebral guy. I just think sometimes when the boys need to be told to settle their ass down, I'm not sure he's the guy who does it. And I always thought it was funny because I know that they're grown men. I know that they're all grown men, Todd Bowles and everybody. But I don't like when I hear the players call him Todd.
Yeah.
And I've heard
I agree. That's a complete lack of respect.
He's the coach. He's the coach. And like I said, and I don't like that. And it always worries me. I'm a very casual Buccaneer fan. Okay. I might
get to see every game.
My allegiances fall other places. But I look at it and I say, when does that ship start to fall apart? When does the house start to crumble a little bit because he's letting too much stuff slide because he's Todd. He's not the coach. So
they were missing quite a bit. Tristan Wirfs is probably still a couple of weeks away. They completely changed the offensive line right before kickoff, moving guys all around, and it took them about a quarter to get it together. And Baker certainly was off. I mean, that game should have been over midway through the fourth quarter. You missed Cade Otton wide open down the field. That would have been a touchdown that would have gave him a 2-score lead, and in my opinion, would have put the game away. That being said, Baker still threw for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Emeka Egbuka made his early play for Rookie of the Year. Boy, I'll tell you what, I was one of the critics of them drafting him. I was like, we got so many wide receivers, but now, of course, with 2 of them out, he starts, and he looked like he was a 6-year veteran.
In the very moment they made the pick, I went, are you kidding me? That's stupid, right? But you look at it now and you say, how much longer does Mike Evans have?
Right.
You look back and you say, is Godwin going to come back 100%?
Right.
So you had the liberty or the wiggle room to do this, and you got a guy that, man, now he gets to learn from those guys. Somebody's gone next year. Mm-hmm. If he plays like we think he's going to play, one of those guys is going to be told, there's the door, thanks for everything, and here's your parting gift. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. One more thing, too, I was going to tell you about, talk about Baker Mayfield. I watched Baker Mayfield, I want to say it was in the Rose Bowl, his senior year. Am I not am I right there?
When they played Georgia?
Yes.
Okay.
And
yep.
with Baker, right?
Mm-hmm.
I watched Baker Mayfield play the first half of that game like a damn wizard. He was unbelievable. He looked great. And then they made an adjustment, and in the second half, he looked like he was lost.
Yeah.
I see this. I still see that in Baker Mayfield, that he can come out just a house of fire, and then all of a sudden his mechanics are bad. He's on his back foot. He's trying to make a throw, and he'll make some fantastic throws. He really will. But then you have him do some stuff. You're like, that's crazy, just crazy. So, so we'll see. He's good enough to win a lot, but he's also good enough to make you lose a few. There's no doubt about that.
They got the ball back, and he did what he had to do. The pass to Ibuka was perfect. I don't know what coverage Atlanta was playing, to be brutally honest with you, but nonetheless, the Bucs get the win, and everybody else in the division loses. So they already have a 1-game lead over everybody.
That's
heading into the game at Houston next Sunday. And of course, the Texans struggled mightily in LA and lost to the Rams. So they're going to be a little bit angry. Let's give it up for the Jags. They actually looked like a football team yesterday.
They looked
26-10 over Carolina. Trevor Lawrence is obviously like in at least early the Liam Cohen experience. Duval. A couple of touchdown passes. He did throw one interception. It was a great one-handed play by the Carolina player, but he played a pretty clean game, and the Jags were in total control. And Liam Cohen said he was going to run the ball, and Travis Etienne ran the ball. He had like 150 yards and a touchdown in the victory.
Yeah, I do give credit to the Jags. I mean, you didn't know what they were going to be. New coach, a lot of new stuff going on there. So yeah, the great job for them. But ultimately, I will tell you this: there were some very, very good offensive performances for Week 1 in the NFL.
Yes,
something that takes a little while to get charged up. But if we went down the list of the games, I could say, man, if like the Green Bay game, Jordan Love looked.
Yes,
like the real deal. Okay, that was
the Lions looked lost. With all those coaches bailing out, they looked lost.
Yeah, they did. They were not ready. They were not ready at all. They didn't look prepared at all as far as for what happened in Green Bay. It looks solid. But again, talk about it goes again. The Jets and the Steelers game.
What a shocking game that was.
Rodgers looks good. Justin Fields looks good.
Justin Fields looked fabulous.
Yeah, and so all that happening there, you're like, okay, that's significant. Indianapolis, I mean, Miami, we knew Miami was going to slide, but slide that much. I mean, they look like a beaten. He looks like he's done as a coach. Like he looks like he's just, I got nothing. Either he lost the room or something happened there that, and it didn't happen on the football field. It happened somewhere in the last 6 months.
Let's be realistic. They've traded away a lot of their talent, particularly on the back end, and it showed yesterday. Daniel Jones, 7 drives, 7 scores. Daniel Jones, for crying out loud.
Again, but a guy that he's one of these, like Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, guys were talking about that. You're like, wow, how is he doing? But they've been just kind of hanging around. You got so many of these guys that are starting the NFL right now. You've got Geno Smith and on the Raiders. You've got Sam Darnold in Seattle, right? You've got Baker Mayfield at Tampa Bay. You've got these retreaded guys, Daniel Jones. So all these guys are sort of getting retreaded and redone a little bit. And how good can they be? Even Matthew Stafford to a certain extent, but not that he's retread, but he's with the Rams, a little something different. So these guys can be, I mean, real heroes and have really great sort of like a revival of their careers. They showed what they're capable of. It's gonna be interesting to see how if they keep playing at that level, because if they all do, man, they're all gonna make a playoff run. There's no doubt about it. I doomsdayed the Jets. I was like about yesterday's game and everything else. But in all honesty, if Justin Fields can play that way for the next 17 weeks, I've got to say the Jets will be in the playoffs unless the whole defense, goes in on the IR, because he brings a certain amount of stuff that made Breece Hall a lot more effective.
Yes.
RPO and Breece Hall has got some speed and some juice in his step. And Justin Fields, he pulls it once and picks up 10 yards. Boy, the defense slows everything down.
Right.
Slows everything down. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But there's a lot of teams with that type of quarterback that might be difference makers.
Here's the stat of the day. Cincinnati beat Cleveland 17-16, despite having 7 total yards in the second half. Right. 7.
Well, missed field goals and missed
a missed extra point. Yeah.
Right.
Cleveland's gonna Cleveland.
Right. And you look at it and say, my goodness, but the thing is, like I said, we talk about the slow start Cincinnati always has every year. I heard some statistics earlier today that like Jamar Chase has something like 7 catches in the last 3 years in first games. They like some really weird thing like that. And
he only had 2 yesterday.
T. Higgins only had 44 yards total in the 3 games. Burrow did whatever. They all go out to a really bad start. And that's, to me, that's got to be something to do with the coaching staff as well. How do you not prepare the team with all that talent and everything else? My goodness, they should come out of the gate flying. They've been together for years. They kept the team together. And you think, they don't have to learn each other's tendencies. They've been together for a long time. They must not have them do much in the summertime. They're probably just sitting back and enjoy each other's company for 6 weeks. Who knows?
Well, they played all 3 preseason games. They played the starters into the second quarter. And it looked good in the first half, but it looked like they ran out of gas. They're playing in Cleveland, for crying out loud.
Can't understand it. It just makes absolutely no sense. It's 0 sense. I don't know.
San Francisco's got problems. They did beat Seattle. Nice win on the road to start the season, but it sounds like Brock Purdy is banged up and could miss more than just next week's game.
Yeah, Kittle got hurt, but he already
Kittle hamstring several weeks. Yeah, they've same stuff as last year. Injuries killed them last year, and even though they won yesterday, a couple of big injuries for them.
When we say that it's 4 or 5 years ago that John Lynch got involved as the general manager for the 49ers, he made a lot of big splashes. It seemed like he put his name out there, with some draft picks and with bringing some players in here. I think what you're seeing is that some of those guys from that sort of that acclamation of Lynch as the GM are starting to fall apart.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's just I think that Christian McCaffrey, I think his career is over. I mean he's gonna produce some stuff. Maybe he's got another year in him, but you start talking about some really important players that are not there. Debo's gone, so you don't have. Where's your big play guy? Juwan Jennings is on the is still out.
Yep, they had to go out and get somebody off the street.
Receiver.
Yep.
Right. Excuse me, but that's what's going on with him. So you see it. The linebackers are getting older. That kind of thing. I think that their run to the Super Bowl was 2 years ago, and they didn't make it. And so I think it's going to be. I think they're sort of kind of trying to keep the band together, so to speak. And I'm not sure it's there to do that. So we'll have to see how they make the transition out of that if they do.
One other team I want to note, the Giants. Russ wasn't cooking much yesterday. Ryan Dable after the game wouldn't commit to him, although today he did commit to him for week 2. But it sure sounds like he's already waffling. How long before we see Jackson Dart? I think for Giants fans, the sooner the better.
If he came out and gave Russell Wilson a vote of confidence, Dayball did today, that came from up above.
Above, yes.
Okay, because they said we're not putting Jackson Dart out there until at least week 6, and if Russ is still, crap in the bed, then we'll move Jackson Dart in there. And by the way, you're gonna coach him for the rest of this year, and then we're going to give you your pink slip, so be ready for that as well. So because Dayball has done nothing since year 1 to improve the Giants one bit, and it's unfortunate. I thought he was a great hire. I thought he had the moxie for it. He seemed like, at least he seemed that way, but he's done nothing. He looks frustrated. He looks pissed off.
Yes.
But at what, I don't know. Himself.
Well, he had Josh Allen, and then now he's been the band of Tommy Cutlets and Jameis and Russell Wilson and Danny Dimes throwing nickels. It just not that's his frustration. I mean, I think he is a good coach. I just think he hasn't had a quarterback. And you're right. He probably won't get a chance when the Giants draft one next year.
Hey, I forgot something. Are we Mighty Dog this week?
Yes, we are Mighty Dog this week. I forgot all about that. I had pulled it up, actually. The 941 Sports Zone brought to you by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned, nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses across the Gulf Coast. Give them a call, 941-251-4257. Again, 941-251-4257. Super Bowl rematch next week, Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Chiefs have a real shot to be 0-2. And with I mean, the only bright side is Buffalo really is the only major contender that ended up winning yesterday. Most of the others fell.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. So Kansas City could be 0-2. The AFC North. I mean, they're going to beat up on each other. That's a tough division. They're going to beat each other up pretty good. But where Kansas City got to really worry is Denver wins, Raiders win, Chargers win.
Yeah, Chargers look good,
and they all look good. They've all got. I mean, still out on Bo Nix, but he looks better and better every week. He looks confident. He was a confident player at Auburn. Okay, he went in there as a freshman and he never blinked. He may not have won a lot at Auburn, but he never blinked. Then he goes out to Oregon and he looked like he was. I mean, he thought he was putting up numbers. And the thing about Bo Nix that I think is one of the most underrated things about drafting a quarterback. They always talk about hand size and arm slot and can he spin it and this and that. He started a lot of games in college. And I don't care when you start a game in college, you have to prep. You're prepping to be the starter. The pressure is on you. Excuse me. It's you're playing on big environments, big games, all that juice going into it. So when you've started 40 games or something crazy like that for him, excuse me, then he's coming in there and he's ready to play. He may not be like, he's got Sean Payton telling him, throw it here, do this, do that, giving him easy calls and easy plays, whatever he may have done for him. But he knows the guy's played a lot of games. Yes. Anthony Richardson started like 7 games in Florida.
Just stole my thunder. The yin and the yang. Bo Nix started 100 games. Anthony Richardson started 13. Bo Nix is playing. Anthony Richardson's watching Daniel Jones.
And Anthony Richardson's highlight of his career was an 80-yard touchdown run. Not a throw, not anything else. That's what it was. But that's what I look at. I say guys with starts. Even if you look at the two preeminent quarterbacks in AFC, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, they started a lot of games. Mahomes is at Texas Tech as a starter, and Josh Allen started a bunch of games in Wyoming. So they've started games. There's a lot to be said about that for the success of a player. I would, if I was the GM, I wouldn't take a quarterback in the first round or even the second round unless he had a lot of starts under his belt. It's not a guarantee because Kenny Pickett had a lot of starts and other guys like that. But it would be hard for me to say, let's go take a Trey Lance. He had 6 starts from North Dakota State, and we're going to take him number 1. Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
Not going to work.
Absolutely nuts. One other game to mention, the Buffalo-Baltimore game. I know a lot of people turned it off, went to bed. Baltimore had the game completely in hand. And then Baltimore did what Baltimore does. 17 games where they've had at least a 7-point lead since 2021 that they've lost. And, John Harbaugh doesn't nearly get the criticism that I think he deserves. He's a big part of this. And last night he made a couple of decisions, including punting the ball back to Josh Allen in the last 2 minutes. Your defense hasn't stopped anybody. Kyle Hamilton's hurt. What's the thought process there? And nobody's holding his feet to the fire.
You know what it is? It's like it's not always, but there's a lot of times Harbaugh's fallen into, and Mike Tomlin have fallen into this thing like, well, they've been such good foot soldiers for us, or whatever you want to call it. They've told the company line. They seem to be able to figure things out. They make the playoffs every year, but it kind of gets old. You know what I mean? Eventually, you say to yourself, it's like the old college coach. He's in year 29 of his tenure. He won a national championship 12 years earlier, or whatever else it was, and he's had a good year and a bad year, but he's entertaining on the mic, and he still recruits pretty well, but they're not winning anything. It's just stale, and I think that there's sort of a staleness to John Harbaugh at this point, and I don't know if he'd have to be if they would let him go, or if they're going to wait for him to make it his decision. I don't know, but it almost feels like if Baltimore can't get there this year, and I think it's a tough road, but if they can't get to the Super Bowl this year, I gotta say, gotta move on from him and say this is sort of the end of the road. Does it mean he can go get a job somewhere else? Sure, no doubt about it. Real quick, look at Bill Cowher. Cowher knew when it was time.
Yes.
Okay. And he walked away. He almost waited too long, but then he walked away. And good for him, right? I don't know if that's where Harbaugh is, if he's willing to say, I'm willing to walk away, at this point. So we'll see.
Not with his brother coaching the Chargers. I don't think so. There's too much.
No. There's
too much of a sibling rivalry going there.
Too much bravado in that situation.
Yes,
absolutely.
No question about it. All right, a couple other things before we get out of here. A quick look at Major League Baseball. Rays got themselves right back into the race, had a 4-game series with Cleveland. They were within 2 games of the wild card, and then they lose 3 of 4 to Cleveland. The last 2 games, both by a 2-1 score. So now they're 4 back of the Mariners with 19 to go, and they got to leapfrog 4 teams. Looks bleak.
A few years back, you and I were talking. I told you my philosophy of the Rays, and I'm like, it's very hard for me to get overly enthusiastic with the Rays because they don't have a consistency of players, a consistency of success in a year, a consistency of a lot of things. They are the ultimate tapestry or quilt or whatever you want to say, where they're always like, oh, I can plug this here and plug this here, and it works for a little while. It works for a little while, then it doesn't, and it's almost it's frustrating to follow them as a baseball team because you're always waiting for the shoe to fall, and their inevitability. Sometimes it's just like, hey, you know what? A good second half of the year, they'll be great, and they have a wholesale. They ship people out of there. You know what I mean? They've shipped off Cy Young winners. They've done different things to sort of to do certain things that to manage their sort of mediocrity, the mediocre way of doing things. And so to get real close and then to lose 3 or 4 to Cleveland, like you said, is not surprising. It's inevitable, and that's what happens with them. So and with the one chance they had to get a banner, and they went by. They looked at the book and it says the book says pull them, and they lost it. They lost it.
Well, hopefully the new ownership will inject a little life and maybe do things a little differently. Like instead of selling off their best favorite players, Randy Arozarena. Still wondering, really you had to sell him off. What'd you get? And like you said,
think why they did it. Because they invested in Wander Franco and they didn't get along. And so now so Randy's on the outside looking in. And was that what you should have been doing? Were you really paying attention to what Wander was doing?
Obviously not.
It's silly. It's silly stuff like that, that just kind of happens with them. But, it's again, they always want to talk about the market size. I want to talk about this, and they don't have a lot of money and they do well, all this different stuff. I get that. But the market size I get that you want to make money, but the market size, if you get the right ownership in there, they're not worried about market size.
Right.
They're worried about
Right.
winning games. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think this ownership group has at least outwardly said all the right things here. So hopefully things are going to change. There'll be a little more money for the payroll, and they'll do things a little differently, and hopefully that'll lead to bigger and better things.
I know every podcast in any area around Florida has asked this question, but I'm going to ask you: if the new ownership comes in, if you had one spot, you could pick the spot anywhere, where would you put the stadium?
Ybor.
Okay, you like Ybor because of the ease of getting there, or the atmosphere?
All right. So you told me one spot. I'm going to give you two: either Ybor or where the old Tampa Greyhound is.
Okay.
Right off the 275.
Yep, I got you. I would say that those are good spots. Reason I say it was we went to Tampa Bay Tech, and we went. It's just off of right off of I-4, not far.
Right.
But that area, and when you're in that area where the Hard Rock is, where the amphitheater is there, it sort of lends itself to, you could see a baseball stadium there. You know what I mean? Because you can see something
fairgrounds area.
Yep. Yeah, I could really see it there. I wouldn't have said it before, but I'm like, I was pulling it, I'm like, there should be a baseball stadium there in some way. But again, I know everything is this. It's all about who's got the property, who's got this, and who's going to put the money up. Oh, I know all that junk. But nonetheless, I thought that was a pretty interesting spot. And I will say this too: the only thing that I fully agreed with, anything that I'm drawing a blank. The owner,
Stu Sternberg,
right? When they were going to do when they were going to turn Al Lang into that open air stadium right on the water,
with
and it had
the
that
sail.
idea. Yeah, but even that, but just the idea of what it would have looked like, the size of the stadium they were talking about, and to be sort of the idea was poo-pooed because a couple people didn't want to lose their view from their condo. Yeah, I was like, that's why St. Pete. I know they want to pat themselves on the back. That's why they don't deserve the team after a while. Right. They've had places and things to do, and somehow or another something always comes up, and a bunch of people who don't give a crap about the economy or baseball or whatever it may be fight against it, and it just disappears. So that's their problem.
One other thing I want to bring up from baseball: if the Dodgers don't win the division, they can point to last Saturday night.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yoshi Yamamoto, 1 out away from a no-hitter, 3-0 lead. Jackson Holiday takes him deep to make it 3-1. Manager Dave Roberts comes out, pulls him, and he threw quite a few pitches. The bullpen bought a big can of kerosene and a match to the mound. Right. 3 walks and a hit later, they lose the game in the same inning. It hadn't happened in the live ball era. That means it hadn't happened since 1920.
Right.
Okay? I mean, there's ways to lose, and then there's ways to lose. Wow.
It's funny. Dave Roberts, he's that prototypical big market manager. Every decision, he's either the greatest guy or the worst guy. And he kept the kid in there, and he lost the no-hitter. You understand why he would replace him. But when that all happens like that, they're like, so is this going to be a million people in LA saying, why did you pull him? You should never have pulled him. That was silly. That was stupid. You could have one more out. He would have been fine, and this and that. So, and then of course it makes it look, is the bullpen good? How good is the bullpen?
It's not. That's the whole point here. The Dodgers are not repeating. I'm going to say it right here, and I'm not going out on a very sturdy limb, but they're not repeating. That bullpen is terrible and has been the whole second half of the year. They're likely not going to win the division. I know they've got the tiebreaker advantage, so the Padres have to actually win it by 1. But with that bullpen, I can't see it. And their starters, they got 900 guys on the DL. I mean, it's a miracle that they're still in first place.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
All right, so let's wrap it up. We got one other thing we want to mention: U.S. Open tennis, which for those of us that have lived in the Northeast, that's basically the end of summer. Once the U.S. Open ends, you can start raking leaves and doing things like that. 2 very deserving champs. Sabalenka on the women's side solidified her number 1 ranking. She's the first one to repeat since Serena back in 12, 13, and 14. And then Alcaraz.
Yep.
I love the kid. I love his moxie. I love his bravado.
Well, he showed up and he took New York by storm in in this U.S. Open. His haircut, his
Yep.
you know, and even how his outfits, everything about him, his personality, his smile. He made a lot of money this past 2.5 weeks or so. So he's definitely that guy. Real quick, talk about being from the Northeast, but if you're a football fan growing up, CBS Sports and the U.S. Open, they used to not have a 4:00 game. Correct. For the semifinal and this, that, I'm not tennis. Even back then, I don't play tennis or whatever else, but it was exciting.
Yeah.
And when you had Connors and Borg and McEnroe and all these guys, Lendl, you name about it, you watch the 1:00 game and Pat Summerall would kick it to the guys on the tennis side, and you watch tennis. And you would never have watched it if it wasn't the lead-in from the NFL. Right. And it was like 2 weeks of that. It wasn't like 1 week. It was like 2 weeks of that, where you met the men's final will be coming up, and it's McEnroe and Borg, and it's a 5.5-hour tennis match, and it's drama and it's athleticism, and McEnroe screaming at the linesman or the referee. It was great theater. If you went back and looked at that, it was really fantastic. And having tennis be the back end of a doubleheader for the NFL would be sacrilegious right now. People would be like, "Are you kidding me? You're not going to play."
ABC put the men's match started at 2:00. Are you kidding me? 2:00? Right into the teeth of the NFL. 7 people watched it.
Stupid. Yeah, I know. But I thought it was fantastic that back in the day, you're like, especially the vibe of that. It was exciting. The tennis crowds are getting into it. I mean, they're not big stadiums at the U.S. Open. What are they? What's the big stadium hold? 20,000 maybe?
20.
Yeah.
That's a good size for tennis.
It's rowdy.
Yes.
It's cool. It's a cool deal. So that's my memories of the U.S. Open, is being a kid. And then I would, back then there's regional football. If, let's say, the Jets got the 1:00 start, or the Giants got the 1:00 start. Hey, you watch the Raiders and the Chiefs at 4:00 on NBC, or I'm going to watch the tennis. I was watching the tennis, especially if the right guys were in it.
Absolutely. All right, final segment. As always, we finish it with what's bugging me, and I guess you can go ahead and get on the tee box there, since you're a much better golfer than I am.
Well, mine would be, you would think would be easy, because obviously I was at the game for Florida, and there's just no way it'd be silly to say that Billy Napier is not bugging me. Okay. But I'm going to take it to a different spot, kind of a little bit different. So I was kind of thinking about, everybody's right away. We got to fire Billy Napier. I'm like, well, who do we get? Okay. Who's the guy? Who's the next guy up? And I don't want to hear like, hey, Oregon's offensive coordinator is a young 29-year-old. I don't want to hear that. And that's for somebody else to. What
about the old ball coach?
I'm talking about. I've heard that line too. You think Steve Spurrier? I'm like, he can't even walk in the field. He was out there this week, and they were helping him off the field. He's 80. He's older. He's an older guy. He's better. He's a restaurateur now anyway. So anyway, yes. But I said, okay, let's play a game, and I'll ask you first. Name the top your top 3 quarterbacks coaches in the NCAA right now. One's probably easy, but the rest of them might be difficult. But give me your top 3 guys.
Boy, turning your what's bugging me into a quiz for me.
Mm-hmm. What's gonna bug you? I'll bug you with this one. Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna go something very unpopular. I'm gonna go Ryan Day.
Okay.
This is homerish, but I think Alex Golish is a hell of a coach, and he's not long for USF. I really do.
All right, I'm good with that. That's fine.
And I would say, oh boy, I don't like too many coaches. I'll go Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman.
And most of the people everybody gets one or at the bat. Kirby Smart seems to get a lot of
Kirby Smart. Okay.
So Kirby, Marcus Freeman, I've heard him a little bit as well. Ryan Day, but my point is, so if I had all the money in the world, and I was a booster for the Gators, said we're going to go get ourselves the guy. Okay. We're not messing around anymore. We've experimented with Dan Mullen, with Billy Napier, with Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, whatever it's been. We need to go out and get the guy. When they hired Urban Meyer, he was the guy. You knew that Urban he was coming to Florida. That was a guarantee, right? So who's the guy that I can go get? Who's the guarantee? Okay, you're not going to get Kirby Smart at this point, whatever it may be. But the point is that college coaches have sort of there is no guy. When Nick Saban walked away, he walked away with the championship, and they may decide to end it there. Like WWE has like 5 world champions, and they always retire one after a while. Like, now, no more universal champion. It's going to be unified. Nick walked off with the belt. So what's bugging me is that the coach that I have might be what I have to keep, because I don't know who can come in there and set the world on fire and be that next guy. Alex Golesh, you mentioned him. He might be a great coach. I don't know what he's going to do at a level of coaching where that Florida's at.
You take the step up. Yeah. He might be a great power or a group of 5 coach, but not a power 5 coach. You're right.
Mike Norvell is the ultimate coach of what the NCAA is like right now. Mm-hmm. He went 12-0, bitched about not getting in the playoff, loses to Georgia by 60 points.
Yeah.
Okay. Gets, and I know everybody left, but I had a coach friend of mine said to me, and I said about, those kids, this and that. He goes, what are you talking about, the kids? That's a program issue, because why would all they brought in was a bunch of hired guns, and they left, and they didn't care about the school. They were there for whatever their own personal reasons. That's an institutional problem. That's a coach. That's a team problem. And the next year went 2-10, and now he's the belle of the ball again, right? Oh, they're 2-0. They beat East Tennessee, Texas A&M, Commerce, whatever. Javelinas. They beat them, and they beat an Alabama team who they hired their Mike Norvell and Kalen DeBoer. Kalen, I said to this, and this is what's that Kalen DeBoer and Billy Napier and Alabama and Florida are the same team. They lost at Florida State. We lost to USF. They beat nobody. We beat nobody. They're top 13. They slid. They're top 18. They slid down the line. We're out of the top 25. It's the same thing. Who's Alabama going to go get right now? Who are they going to go buy off somebody? They're going to go buy Kirby? You want Dabo? Is Dabo your guy? I don't know. So right now, what's bugging me is there is no coach out there. There's no guarantees. The only there's no guy you can say for sure. And I know there never is, but my gosh, if there's a guy, if there's a gem hidden on somebody's staff, let me know. And don't tell me it's like, oh, it's Paul Paducah. He's a great guy. He just came from UMass and he didn't. No, I don't want to hear that shit. That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear the solid guy and know that guy's going to go. But that's just bugging me. I like to see my coach go, but there's no coach to replace him.
No, and I feel your pain, pal. I really do.
Yeah.
What's bugging me kind of goes into our industry.
Okay.
I kind of made light of it earlier, kind of giving you as a public service. I'm going to do it again for you. We've got a pretty good matchup, a top 20 matchup coming up in South Florida on Saturday. Number 5, Miami is going to host number 18, USF. And you could say what you want about USF being ranked or what have you, but it's a pretty decent matchup as matchups go on Saturday. But because they make the schedule, particularly for TV, weeks out, this game is going to be in the witness protection program. It's at 4:30 on the CW. Do you know where the CW is in your on your system, John?
No, I know, but it's probably the lead-in for is either going to be Live Golf, like I said before, or one of those shows where a young woman is trying to find herself in some rural or some wooded area in California, and she meets the local sheriff, and they fall in love, and they do a 7-9 year sitcom or a rom-com about it. Yeah, that's the CW.
And you got to walk before you, or crawl before you walk, and walk before you run. And the CW's trying to get into the sports business, and good for them.
Sure.
But I mean, for a game of this magnitude, particularly in the state of Florida, fine, leave it on the CW. The rest of the country, put it on something that we can actually watch, please. I mean, I honestly don't know where I'm going to find it on my cable system up here in the Northeast. I don't even think I have the CW. So I'm going to have to. I do have a Google. What do you want to call it? The brick for when you cut the cord. I have one room that doesn't have. I have one room where I'm broadcasting from. By the way, the spare room in my house has Google. I have a Google thing like a Fire Stick or whatever.
Right.
And I'll find it on there, and I'll be in this room with all these boxes around me. Watching the game on Saturday because that's the game I want to watch.
Right.
But I think there should be a little bit of flexibility, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Come on.
I agree.
Yeah,
and with the ACC as well, man,
right.
It's hard to get your product out there when in half the country is not really, you're channel surfing, you don't channel surf that direction.
Yes.
You know where to start and where to go to, when you're looking for what game and you hopscotch around. It's usually not to the CW, and and then again, I mentioned Live. That's why Live was sort of living in obscurity, even though they had named players, because where was it? What was going on? You had no idea.
Well, they got the Fox this year, but still, many people don't even know that. So,
no, because when you turn it on, it's to me as a golf fan, it just didn't look right.
No, the picture's too busy. It's just you got to try to figure out, are they giving you scores for the team or are they giving you scores for the individual?
Live Golf and the football game from Brazil had the same sort of look to me.
All right, so that's what's bugging us. We ran very long this week. And again, the 941 Sports Zone brought to you by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned, nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses across the Gulf Coast. Give Philip Crutchfield a call, and his number is 941-251-4257. Again, 941-251-4257. Thanks a lot for everybody joining us here for the third episode this season of the 941 Sports Zone.
And it's fun to say that we're getting into the meat of things, high schools as well. Some big games, some good games coming up. So everybody go out there and enjoy it. And I'm going to say this right here, fingers crossed. We might get a little touch of fall weather down here in Florida this weekend.
Wow, we're getting some already. I got leaves in my front yard already.
I always watch the most negative weatherman I can, so I don't get any fooled by anybody. And the most negative guy out there, he's like, he's always talking about global warming and all the different stuff. He's like, we might see some areas get in the 60s this weekend.
Dare I say the 60s? Wow.
Well, for us, that's like, forget about it. I'll wear a hoodie.
Yeah.
I'll be going and watch the Florida game at my buddy's house with a hoodie on. It's 71 degrees out. So
all right, plug the Peacock Show and plug your broadcast Friday night.
John Peacock Coaches Show. Me and Coach Peacock live from Bogies. We do our show. We're not live, it's we tape there on Tuesday nights, but Thursday night it comes out on YouTube. Vibrant Aspect Media, our friend Francis Haynes does the production on that. It's a lot, very entertaining. If you want to get to know Coach Peacock, watch me talk with him. It's always kind of fun to get out there and do that. And of course, the live stream on Friday night. Normally we kick on, depends on what's going on, and if there's some sort of, we're always duct taping something together, even with a new press box. So if we get ourselves together, there'll probably be a pregame about 7:00, but for sure on the air by 7:25 with the big matchup with Port Charlotte visiting the Venice Indians, and that should be a good game, and hopefully nice weather that nice. It would be a really good thing as well. So yeah, enjoy. I hope you enjoy all the products we have out there, and you definitely check the Peacock show out. I know the football game will be good, but sometimes the Peacock show is highly entertaining. We wore costumes last year, so that, I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
All right, that'll do it for this week. Back again next week. We do go live Monday at 8 p.m., and then you can pick up the podcast, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you pick up your podcast. And we certainly look forward to talking to you next Monday. So for John Massoni, I'm Spitz. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah.